Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight's Selectmen's meeting. It was originally posted for January 21st because of the storm. We delayed it to tonight at the Foxborough High School Media Center. Tonight's agenda at 7 p.m. is citizens input, 7:05 chairman update, 7:15 Randy Scollins, Carla DaCosta. What? Oh, I got the old one. Sorry. Senior tax program. And 8 p.m. Robert Cutler, Randy Scollins, Bill Casbera, Town Hall lease option. 8:15 p.m. Cindy Delpina, Robert Cutler pay plan. 8:30 p.m. Planning Board and Board of Selectmen, Planning Board Associate Member joint appointment. 8:45 Town Manager recruitment. Lorraine will be handling that with Bill Euclid tonight, right? Yeah. And 9:15 executive session to discuss strategy regarding litigation matters. And also a discussion on Splitsville, and then conduct sessions on preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, highway, water, and dispatchers, stadium security with Chief O'Leary also. Okay, I got something I want to read to you tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Jay, please.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for citizens input besides Dick Heidecker? Okay, are you here, Dick, for that? No. Seeing none? Okay, thank you. Put together something I wanted to read tonight under Chairman's update, and obviously it's going to be about Sam Burns, so if you bear with me for a minute. I would like to take this opportunity to thank many for coming out to support Sam Burns' parents, Scott and Leslie, after his passing on January 10th. I am so proud of all you for your compassion and effort, for the courage of our children who were always there for Sam, even on the saddest day. You are the future of Foxborough. We are all very proud of you. For the Superintendent of Schools, Debbie Spinelli, and all her staff for arranging support, counseling for our children, and safe transportation of our children to Sam's Memorial Mass. For the Foxborough Police Department, Sharon Public Safety, and all the surrounding police departments arranging a safe environment for all on that inclement day. For the Kraft family and the Patriots Organization for helping to fight progeria through the charitable foundations, giving Sam so many opportunities, and for hosting a grand reception for Sam's parents, family, and friends. It was first class, and I want to thank you for that. For the Scout leaders and Scouts who put their own feelings aside to assure everyone else's comfort throughout Sam's service. For Foxborough Music Department and members who not only gave Sam a great opportunity to be immersed with so many friends to do what he loved, but to be a part of this service which has been so difficult. Lastly, to all who assembled to honor the legacy of Sam, thank you. One of the saddest days in Foxborough history took place on Friday with Sam's passing. Sam Burns defined the word courage as he strived to overcome progeria. He never let it stop him from doing anything in his life he set his goals on. He never looked at himself as different, and neither did his peers. Sam instead became a source of education for our community and the world on progeria, speaking many times to assemblies of so many of the brightest minds in the world who eagerly listened. Sam left his eternal mark in our small town with the way he lived. He demonstrated to all of us what courage, perseverance, and pride stood for. He was a true Foxborough warrior. I'd like to take a minute and have a moment of silence for Sam now. Appreciate it. Thank you. As you can see, I don't know if Frank can get it, I guess you'd call it the memorial from the Foxborough High School kids is there on the wall. Thank you for bearing with me through that. So, okay, 7:45, a little early. Randy, are you prepared to go? Or do you want us to go to action?
No, we can go. Is Vicky here? Oh, great, yeah.
Okay, please come forward.
if you want. Sit down. I was supposed to go up with him.
The old one, I never printed it.
Oh, I took that. Mine, it's the same, just the time to do it.
Okay, Randy?
Great,
Please.
thank you. This is a topic about the senior property tax work-off program. Just very briefly, for maybe some people in the community who don't know what that program is. The Senior Property Tax Work-Off Program is a program that allows seniors to do volunteer work for the town of Foxborough in exchange for a reduction in their property taxes. To be eligible, they have to be 60 years or older, own a home in Foxborough, and pay taxes on that home as well, and meet the program requirements as had been established by our bylaw, and offer a skill that one of the departments in the town can use. In the property tax work-off program, they volunteer for a department. They are assigned through coordination by Vicki and her office at Council on Aging. They try to find a job that matches their skills and interests. And they're currently, they earn the state minimum wage, which is $8, towards a credit on their taxes. It's earned, which ultimately becomes a voucher, which goes to the assessor's office, and then they receive a reduction on their taxes. Currently, the town meeting has adopted a limit of $750, up to a credit of $750 on their taxes. And there's no state income tax requirements on this, but there are federal withholding requirements. So that's the just a brief outline of what the program is. As far as the history, the program's been quite successful in Foxborough. We've had 184 participants over the last 5 years, not including fiscal 14. It's an average of 37 seniors a year. They've earned $135,000 in property tax credits over that time, for an average of $27,000 a year over the last 5 years. So fairly successful program. A lot of departments utilize this program to supplement what gets done in their departments, whether it's the schools, the Veterans Department, Fire Department, etc. So why are we here? We're here to recommend a warrant article to change the limit, the tax credit limit, at the next annual town meeting. As I said, currently the seniors can earn a maximum credit of $750. Currently, there's no W-2 issued for that today. Again, the tax credit's not subject to state income taxes, but it is subject to federal withholdings. So the recommended changes is that we raise it to $1,000, which is the maximum allowed by Mass General Law, and to be proposed via a warrant article at town meeting to modify the existing bylaw. We will be issuing W-2s in order for us to be compliant with IRS regulations, and as a tax credit is considered earned income for federal income tax purposes, not state. One of the other recommendations that we'd like to make as a change to the bylaw, Hannah and I met with the Board of Assessors this week to review the program on the specifics of it. And today, the seniors can get a credit of $750, but with the requirement of the federal withholdings, which will equate to approximately 25% of the earned amount. If somebody were to get a credit of earn a credit of $1,000 with the 15% withholding of federal tax, we're required to withhold the equivalent of Social Security, which is OBRA, state pension system, 7.5%, and Medicare, 24%. So with those deductions on the $1,000 maximum credit, the net would still be right around $750 or $760. So, and for $1,000, if they're earning $8 an hour towards that, they would have to work substantially more hours, in essence, to net the same amount. So the recommendation by the Board of Assessors, and supported by the three of us as well, is to allow for the hours worked to be worth $10 per hour, which is allowed. We have to just offer the minimum, state minimum wage as a minimum. And I know there's activity in the state legislature to move that over 3 years anyways. I know the Senate supported it. The House hasn't done anything with it, but we thought it would be easier. Today they have to work 93.75 hours to earn $750. With a $1,000 credit at $10 an hour, they have to work 100 hours. So within 6 hours, roughly the same amount of hours to, in essence, net the same credit, because it's only the net that they would receive credit for in their taxes. So that's the proposal, in summary, is to present a warrant article at town meeting to increase the limit to $1,000 and increase the wage that they would earn towards their credit to $10 an hour.
John, any questions?
Yeah, for everyone, the number of participants is 184, but that's a sum of 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that some of the participants are in there year after year after year. Those aren't 184 separate individuals.
It could be. What we do is when people come in, they put in their application. We have more participants than we have jobs available, so what we'll do is when someone completes their hours, their application goes back into the file, so another person has a turn to earn the tax.
Okay, so the next
So
year
we
could be
do try
somebody new.
to rotate it so that people, so that it's fair. There are instances where someone might have a special skill that it wouldn't be beneficial to the department to have to retrain another person, and that person might continue on, but in general, we do rotate the number of,
Super, okay. Two other questions. There's no way to avoid OBRA?
No, it's we need to be compliant with that.
Yeah, that's just a hassle. I mean, it's very few dollars, and then you have to try to recover it. It's difficult. Last question, is there a cap on this? In other words, is there a pool of money that will be appropriated, and then once that is burned off, that's the program, or is it open-ended?
Currently open-ended, but let me explain. It's never, as you can see with the history, it's never been an issue. It's factored into the overlay amount. That's the amount, if you recall, that when we do our budget planning, we reduce our tax revenue forecast by this amount, $440,000. It's associated, it's called overlay, but it handles a variety of things. We're required to have an overlay, to reserve an overlay by the Department of Revenue for every year's taxes. The primary purpose is to provide for tax abatements for those who request them. And so typically, that's equates to about $220,000 on average, per year. Actually seems to be doing really well. This year, we don't have hardly any abatement applications to date. So if anybody wants to put one in, now's the time, because the window's closing on February 3rd for this year. Sorry, Hannah. Yeah. And the remainder of the funds are paid out for exemptions that have been approved in prior years at town meeting. Veterans, widows, widowers, veterans of foreign wars, things like that, and that comes out to about $200,000 annually. That's an annual amount, and there could be hardship in there as well. And then the remainder, is what the senior tax program absorbs, and it varies. As you can see, from a low of $18,000 last year to $32,000. Back 5 years ago. So the Board of Assessors and Hannah and I have discussed the concept of a cap. We didn't think it was necessary at this time, but obviously it's something we watch because we have to manage to within that amount. And just to be clear, if money goes into overlay and then ultimately is determined it's not needed for abatement purposes, it gets released by the Board of Assessors, and that comes back to town meeting to be reappropriated. And if you recall, we've used any excess funds in there to either fund the triennial revaluation work or to fund a capital project, because it's one-time money. So we haven't had the need for a cap yet, but it's something we actually did discuss this week, that given that this change would actually add on average about $10,000 to the program, instead of $27,000 on average, would probably cost about $37,000, assuming the same participation. But if we found that it was spiking up to, beyond that, then that would probably be the next proposal you would hear coming from the board, that we put a cap on it.
Thanks.
All right,
I'm all set, thank you.
Ginny?
So this is, you have to be a homeowner to participate?
Homeowner and pay the taxes on that home.
Okay, and they don't actually receive the money. The money is put toward their property tax?
Exactly. It's a credit on their third and fourth quarter tax bills.
Okay, and is this limited to one person per household?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Jim?
Vicky, did I hear you say that there's more applicants than there are opportunities? Right. So in 2009, there were 44 opportunities, and now it's dropped almost in half to 25.
I think a lot of that was the compost pile site when we monitored
Yeah,
that.
we did have a lot of people that managed the compost site, but also we had a senior tax work-off person that ran the program that had history working in the school department, and she became ill last year, and so our program is kind of probably, she was the one who would get letters out to the schools and to the other departments and promote the program, so we're kind of picking up the
Okay,
pieces
so you think
there.
it dropped down with just
I
'cause
think
lack of
some of that
promotion and-
might have been some internal things that, not for placing people, but for recruiting departments for more jobs.
So if the recruiting and the public awareness goes up, does the job opportunities go up?
Sometimes it does. It's, people who've used the program, I know that a lot of departments have used it, and, it's a real win-win. The department gets to have a task completed that they wouldn't have money in their budget to do, and they get a worker that, has a wonderful work ethic. They'll be there, they'll do it correctly, they'll, stick with it. And a lot of people, just really enjoy being able to do things to help different departments in the town. So it is a really good program. Sometimes getting the schools involved is where our person that we had was really instrumental, because she knew all of the principals and everything, so she could just give a personal call. But
Okay,
we'll get back there. So.
all right, thank you.
Yeah, Ginny, yeah.
Just one more question. Is there any liability to the town in case of an accident? Or?
There is, that was always there. There's always tort liability, but our insurances cover us for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
I just want to, actually, I think it's a good program. My father is actually a file clerk at Town Hall in Mashpee,
Oh.
and he gets them out of the house, so it's a great program.
I'll take a motion.
No, this is a,
So you'll see this, if I'm sensing support, I would put this forward with the warrant articles that'll come forward in the next 3 weeks or so.
do you need a vote on this tonight? I mean, do you need-
Not tonight, but just
Okay.
if you're
Articles come up.
saying it's okay for it to come forward in the
Yeah,
form
this
of a
is-
warrant
this is
article.
For
then-
information?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we wanted to sense the support, because the changes we would make would be as suggested, but we would make them if the board wasn't receptive to it.
So the consensus is to support
I'm all
it.
for it.
Yeah, no, I don't see a problem with it.
Oh, great.
Great,
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Something about this?
Go ahead, Ginny.
Oh, this is a wonderful book.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Is it available to everyone?
It's available to everybody. We have many copies at the Senior Center. There are some at Town Hall. The Veterans Agent has some, and the library has some.
Okay. For
They're
those,
free for the public.
it's the Human Services Resources Guide, and it's a guide to important programs and benefits for Foxborough residents. It lists everything that you can ever think of. It's a wonderful
everything we do
book.
in a book.
It's wonderful.
We took our own resource book and gave
Yeah.
it to the public.
So, thank you very much for
Oh,
this.
you're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Are you staying, Randy? Okay, Robert Cutler, Randy Scollins, and Bill Casbarra for the Town Hall lease option. Bill, you want to come up?
Bill, you can as part of the group as
Bill,
well.
come on up, Mr. Uker.
Good evening.
Okay, who wants to start?
I'll start. As you know, we've been struggling to find a satisfactory solution to the town hall building. I don't have to cover. We all know it's a building in need, and we need to do something. As you know, we put forward over the last couple of years a variety of proposals, and they haven't been successful. But we've been, listening intently to the feedback that we've been all been receiving, for a while now, and there's an option that's really been asked to be explored, and we agree. We would like to explore it more fully, and that is a lease option. And in order to explore that more fully, the proper way to do it would be to develop a request for proposal, with the requirements, and then put that out, and see if there is, there's a property owner or developer in the community that would be able to put a proposal forward that would, work for the town offices, as well as be economical for the town. So we're looking to have that discussion to see if you would support the process of us developing an RFP and putting it out there.
Okay. Bill, anything to add?
No, I think there are some questions on our side as well for you, and one of them being the radius from the town center that you'd be finding acceptable. Again, we're just reacting to what we think the town is basically saying, that they want to know what this cost would be and if this is the right way to go. You're never really going to get that by doing market research. So I think Randy is right. The only way to really get it is to do an RFP and get actual, real proposals come back to the town. If they're acceptable, fine. We, as a board, can make a decision to move forward through town meeting. If they're not acceptable, then I guess we've been told that even their own, an option that's been asked of us to do is not what they want either. So we need to eliminate the possibilities here, and I think this is one way to do that.
Okay. Bill, anything to add?
No, just that we need to move forward on this. We've tried with a new or renovated, but it seems like what's been heard is to look at the lease option, and that's what we're asking your support on, to proceed with that. It would be throughout the town, and we just request that you support this.
Okay, Jim, any questions?
With respect to the radius, are you asking us what our preference is for the radius? I would suggest, there's only limited amount of office space available in town. I would just put it out for the entire town, and let's see what comes in, rather than excluding, because you don't know what's out there until it comes in front. The one option that a developer had come to me, and maybe some other board members, and I know they approached the planning board, is the option of somebody would build it for us, and then we would lease it on a long-term basis. Is there any room in the RFP thought process for something like that in this?
That's, we're aware of that, obviously, but, given the nature of state procurement laws, we're required to follow a process. So we thought, okay, well, here's somebody who's, got an interesting proposal, but it would be inappropriate, for us to just focus in on that. We're required for a lease of town property for any town space, we have to go through a formal, request for proposal process. So hopefully if that's an option that's still out there, maybe that comes forward along with some others, and we see some interesting options.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if it's still out there. I know it had gone the circuit around, and I'm not saying go with that particular developer, but if that's an option that the board might consider, then open that up similar to this, that anyone that would want to do that type of scenario.
Right. Well, and I think the way that we envision writing the RFP would be one that keeps it pretty open, so that we can get a longer term one with options to go beyond, and leave it so that basically when you look at all the proposals, you can really match them against something and say what's the best thing for the town, whether it be for the next 5 years or longer. Because let's face it, if you're going to do a lease, you're not doing it for the next 2 or 3 years.
Sure.
And I think that's got to be the practical way of looking at things. But the longer term, again, would really be based on what the economics are of the proposals that come in.
Okay. So it certainly doesn't hurt to see what's out there, but in order to put the RFP and meet these deadlines, are we talking about extraordinary cost and effort, or is this, you've kind of walked through
Effort,
this?
but I think we can handle that.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure you can.
Ginny?
So this is the solution to the town hall problem?
It could
Rather
be.
than
Could be.
rather than renovating, rather than you're taking renovation, you're taking a new building off the table, and this is, because if you go out for an RFP, it's not going to be for 2 years, it's,
Right, if the question is this a stopgap, or is this if something that's appealing comes forward to us, is this a long-term solution? And we would look at it as, yes, this is a long-term solution. I've never been a fan of the stopgap. I think that's throwing good money after bad. We've been toughing it out, in that building. I think we can still do that, but as long as we're actively pursuing something that may come to fruition, hopefully this might be the long-term solution.
But Jenny, I think it also, again, if we write the proposal properly, it could be the 3 to 5 year solution, which you could then use as a backstop. However, it could be the long-term solution too. So it's not necessarily just a long-term solution.
Yeah.
But it gives you the true numbers. Again, I think when you listen to what's been said in the paper and what's been done at town meeting and stuff like that, it seemed very strong that people wanted to know why we weren't just leasing like any business would do. I mean, we may all have different feelings about that kind of a concept, but again, I think the only way you actually end up with what are the true economics of this is to go this route.
No,
And again, you may in the end say, no, we're not interested because the numbers just don't work for
Yeah.
us.
No, something has to be done. But, the people who participated in the master plan, those meetings, pretty much everyone wanted to see Town Hall remain more or less in the downtown area. Except for the Chestnut Green, these other buildings were in the office park. And they have their advantages. They're one level, plenty of parking, plenty of places to walk around, easy to get to, but it's not in the center of town. And I think people...
Shy of the existing site, nothing is in the center.
Right. But I mean, it's a commitment, and you'd hate to
Well,
change the character of the downtown, possibly.
Again, I
Yeah,
think
that's-
based on the options that will be put in front of you,
Right.
that's when you have to make the
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. And I realize something has to be done to Town Hall. So,
Bill, the procurement laws allow up to, as it says, 30 years. In the RFP, are you going to put 5, 10, 20, 30?
Option
So you can
periods.
look at the different options?
Yeah.
Okay. Right?
I think this makes so much sense because, it has been the theme, it's been repeated over and over again in advisory committee, the interest in looking at what are the real lease costs involved. From talking about the radius, I think ideally having the radius, wherever this lands potentially, as close to the center of town as it possibly could be, is more ideal. That's just
Well,
my own opinion,
If two
but,
come up comparable and
yeah.
there's something close and there's something far away, obviously we're going to
yeah.
probably lean towards the closer option,
Yeah.
so.
But, I think, assuming that the way you put out the RFP will address all of the desirable,
If you put it out there, I mean,
aspects
there's
of it.
expansion going on at Adventus. I mean, they're leaving the building that they're in down the street, as far as I understand, so there might be an option there, so. So, let's throw it out there and do it, doing the up and up and see what kicks back.
yeah. No, I think this is a great idea to just get this work completed.
You think, John?
Just to recap, this is just you're asking for a response to the RFP. There's no commitment. You just say, we have the numbers, and then once we have the numbers, we can talk about the numbers.
Yes.
But I think, if you get any message, I think the town hall is one of the cylinders in what remains of an economic engine in the downtown area. And if that were to leave, I think you would immediately see an impact on some of the small businesses, especially some of the restaurants. I think we've been consistent in saying we'd like it to be placed in the center of town. Like you said, Bill, it may not be possible, but keep that as a seed planted in your mind. That's the preference of exploration.
just have one more question.
Gene, go ahead.
If we do go with a rental, what's going to happen with the Old Town Hall? Are you going to develop a plan alongside the RFP?
You couldn't, as part of the same transaction, you can't do that. They have to be arms,
Right,
have to be
right.
separate and arms
But I
length.
mean, are you going to,
But if,
you know.
that would, I guess that would be the next discussion. If there's a proposal that comes forward that the board is favorable to, like us to, to advance, then that would be a next step, is to, okay, then what's next for the town hall site? Which I think, there's probably many options.
Similar to the fire station.
Right. I mean, I think we're getting closer.
I was being facetious.
No, seriously, I think we're getting, we keep saying it, but I think we're getting a lot closer to the intermunicipal agreement becoming a reality if we get past the Mansfield town meeting, and then I think that unlocks a lot of things for the downtown. So the fire station and the property that abuts it and the town hall, I think they're, could be attractive properties.
Okay, any more questions? You need a formal vote? Oh, I know, hold on. Jack, I see you, sorry. Anything, no, nothing else from the board? Randy?
Yeah, just a budgetary note. You can see the timeline that we're looking to march to. We're obviously trying to sync it up with, if there is any action to be taken on this, to be synced up with the May town meeting, for any funding purposes. Obviously not a major bond issue for something, but just for lease costs. So rather than create a last minute, major changes and realignment of the budget, I'm suggesting that we include an amount for just a rough estimate for lease costs in the town hall building budget. I think $250,000 at this point is a reasonable placeholder, and it's currently something that actually can fit, within it. So when I come forward, I believe it's going to be on the 4th to our first look with the board at the overall budget. If you're okay with that, I would include that in that, so we would look at the budget with that in there rather than having to react to that, at the last minute, if that's acceptable.
Okay. Mr. Heidecker, what brings you on this freezing cold night?
I thought this was citizen input. No, really, I have to compliment the team for starting this finally. I use the word finally advisedly because our group had talked to Kevin back in 2011.
Who's he?
I know. This happened at AdCom 2 weeks ago where I mentioned Kevin, and there's a Kevin on the AdCom, as you all know, and he got very uptight about it. Mr. Pecos. The point is, the lease is not going to be as simple as it seems, because you have the storage component, which has to be both fire and protected, especially for Bob's materials and for the assessors and certain portions of the finance group. How do we handle this? If it's only a 2-year, the fit-out cost on building fireproof storage and containers within this building becomes very excessive. Do we find a fireproof storage warehouse someplace and put them there? If we go extended number of years, we'll have to build something close to the facility. So the big question has been for the last 3 years, how much space do you need for the office? What are you going to do for the storage and the moving and the furnishings? How do you deal with this? The fit-out costs, which is the partitions, the counters and stuff that you will expect, plus the technology that would have to be built in. These are all variable based on whether it's a 2-year, a 5-year, or extended, and this has to be built into this RFP. But the big question is still, what do we need? No one's been able to answer this for 3 years. And the question is it the 12,000 feet that the spec calls for? Is it the 5,000 that you're occupying now as office space? Is it larger than that with the storage component and everything else? I think we need some answers on this as quickly as we can arrive at it. As I've talked with Bill over recent months, I've indicated to him that the ad hoc group would be very helpful if he wants to call on us, and you advise him to do so, we can do layouts for him and go through this process. We have architects, engineers, and estimators in our group, and contractors that can help on this. And we won't have to apply for the senior tax benefit, even though one of us or two of us are old enough to do it. So Randy can relax a bit on that. But anyway, all I'm saying is that this is a real complicated issue, depending on the time frame and the components that are put into it. We need to get started. This is a good start. Let's move it, and let's go from here. That's my basic question. We're offering to help where we can. Just give us a call, and we'll be happy to do it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. You need a formal vote, Randy, or just direction?
No, on the, direct, just direction to proceed to develop the RFP.
Anybody object to an RFP going out?
No,
Speaks for itself.
as long as we're not obligated to follow up on it.
No.
And just to,
Do you need anything else? Do you need, from the board, just okay for the RFP? You got enough help right now? Just to get the RFP out?
Just
yeah,
need your
we'll pull
support.
together. One other note that I was going to add on to the operating budget request. So we had the lease amount that I'll put forward, and, we'll see and we'll talk about when we review the budget. But also, we have also thought through on the furniture and fixtures costs. So again, to be, fully prepared for that, we would then advance through the capital process as well, an amount for that. And we still have to work out what that number, might be, but, we would anticipate putting that through the capital process. So if there is a successful option here, that all of it could be, enacted at town meeting, and we could move forward.
Okay.
None of it requiring any bonding, nothing of that scale.
Okay.
I just
Judy,
have
go
one.
ahead.
When you do what do they call it, the build-out, is that when you configure the inside?
Set up the rooms.
What plan are you going to use for the build-out?
It depends on the building that's available. We're basically going to write the RFP so that they're going to have to do the build-out for us.
The advertising.
And amortize it over the term. Like I said, it won't be a 2-year RFP. We're talking
Yeah.
probably 5-year.
Minimum.
As a minimum, because otherwise it doesn't work. Dick is 100% right there. And in doing so, we will build in the components that we're talking about here. So
To include like meeting space, selectmen's meeting room and everything like that.
Define rental space on a permanent, you don't see it very much in town government, but it's pretty common on town government for a temporary 5 or 10 years while they're
Right.
fixing or renovating or building.
I know for a fact
It's not a
Rentham did it for
difficult.
almost 5 years while they redid their
Which town?
Rentham.
Rentham, yep. Franklin did it, Norfolk did it.
So,
Okay. That it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next Cindy Delpina and Robert Cutler on a pay plan.
my pen.
Okay, Bob, want to start?
So we were in front of you a couple of months ago talking about the whole merit and all of that, and we decided to go in a different direction. And so one thing we need to do is finalize with you the direction the board wants to go with for budgetary purposes, so we know with the budget article that there'll be sufficient funds to fund any increases based upon performance. So I think at the time we suggested that we approach it in a similar fashion to what Easton does. It's a performance-based STEP program. It's similar to the STEP program we already have in place, but we do emphasize the performance portion of it that hasn't really been used in town to date. Cindy has provided you in your packages a copy of the performance plan, and I believe attached to that is, are the forms attached or just the salary scale?
Just the salary scale.
Okay. So Cindy's already prepared forms which we have handed out to department heads, and we're going to run those with employees, and that would be how the employees would be, their performance would be based upon the evaluation forms that have been established. And you have the scale in the paperwork that Cindy has prepared for you, how the performance is going to be evaluated. And I believe it's 75% on the actual performance.
Goals and objectives.
Goals and objectives, which all department heads have done already. And then the other 25 is on their normal scale. And then the step that we have now is a 10-step process. It's been expanded to a 19-step for two reasons. First, the Munis program that the finance director is working on to have all of the departments start to use 100% by July 1, needed to have a scale built into it. And the 19-step scale works well. It allows for a kind of a half a step. So if someone during their performance hasn't really met all of their goals and objectives, but still should receive some increase based on performance, then it allows for that kind of an in-between step. Still utilizing the scale that we currently have in existence. So that's what you have in front of you.
Right.
Cindy, do you have anything to add?
No, just the maximum, the scale didn't increase, so the scale is the same one that was approved prior with the merit-based plan, so the min and max are the same. That did not change.
So you'd have the in-between step would be 1 1/4, and the full step would be the 2.5, which is currently in existence.
Right.
Okay, John?
I got quite a few, so.
Oh, boy.
I see Lorraine's got quite a few, too. Don't you?
Just under scope, it says any changes to the evaluation system will require agreement with the town manager, human resources, and town's personnel policies. Are the selectmen going to be included in discussing any changes to the compensation system in the future?
I would think that would be the selectman's direction to the town manager, so that is sort of assumed.
Assumed, okay.
Yeah.
The other one is on management personnel. Can you explain what the weighted average is and the mechanism for that?
Yes, we have department heads, for example, we do goals and objectives, and they're submitted at the beginning of a fiscal year. So if I complete, 90% of my goals and objectives, then 3/4 of that is based on it, and then the other quarter is based on what the town manager would fill out, their forms that have preset, categories, and then you would, 1 to 4, met expectations exceeded, things like that. So then we combine the two. So the average, this form is 25%, where your goals and objectives is 3/4.
Okay, so there's a performance component, but the goals and objectives are separate from performance?
No, that's 3/4 of your performance is based on your goals and objectives.
Okay.
And the other 25 is just your overall, that you're there on time, that you work the hours you're supposed to, all those
Okay, it's a
different
non-performance metric.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
that was. Okay, under item 4, exceeds requirements, performance significantly exceeds standards. Who determines the standards? Who sets them? Who keeps them? Who communicates them?
These are on the forms, not the goals and objectives, but the other forms that were created, and it's 1 through 4, and if that would be decided by the department head or town manager, whoever is the supervisor of the person.
But there's certain standards for each job that have to be met. So each job's going to have its own standard?
Every job has its descriptions and what's required of the position.
Okay, so that component will be matched up against, I guess the job description is the standard?
Yes, they can't just go and say 4, 4, 4, 4 all across the board. It needs to be tangible on something
Okay.
matched up with the description. Because
I'm still having a hard time between that component and performance. I still think they should be one and the same.
well, they
If it's
They are.
performance-based, it should be all performance-based.
right, they are all performance-based. The forms speak of things that aren't necessarily on your goals and objectives. How well you communicated with your staff, how well you worked as a supervisor to proactively encourage your employees, things like that. How well you handled the public, how well, things of that
Okay,
nature.
all right. That's good clarification. I think the last one. Is there room for any stretch goals in this? In other words, goals that, really, they're almost unachievable, but they're worth at least making an attempt at? Is that in any of the forms that you created? Is that allowable to management to try to create a stretch goal?
Yeah, there's actually several, I hate to say empty spots, but several areas where they can write those in, and things that also may take place over 3, 4, 5 years, and how they're making the progress along the way.
Okay, because,
So-
there should be some goals. I mean, some goals, yeah, it's a
Yeah, we do
point
it every
after
day.
kick, they're easy.
Right.
And some goals should be challenging, but then there should be some that really, really, test you. And if you fall short, that's okay, but at least you tried.
Right.
I was kind of looking for something like that to really encourage
A
people.
double bonus?
Get on the bonuses. But just something to say, hey, look what I achieved.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, I'll leave the rest to.
Okay. Okay, under the scope, who it covers, any change, same sentence that John had mentioned, any changes to the scope of the evaluation system will require agreement via the town manager, human resources department, and directives of the town's personnel policies. I wanted to throw in a financial review into here, so throwing in the finance director is what I'm suggesting here as part of the whole review process, is one
Isn't he a
thing.
department head, though?
Yeah, that would.
And he doesn't get reviewed by us because he's under contract, so
Yeah.
he gets reviewed by
Us.
manager and/or the board.
Right.
So he's going to get evaluated, for his,
That's not what she's saying, though.
No, but I'm saying any changes to the evaluation system where there's a financial impact, I would want to make sure that the finance department is.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be included, or whoever that it is at the time, wouldn't be included in the changes to the system as far as the documentation. That's something, if there's a financial piece, as far as budgeting for increases and raises, that would be done separately, as it is, I believe it's done now under one of the articles. It's not involved in the building or changing of the system.
Okay. So this is really referring to how you create this system? Okay.
Yes.
Under management personnel, the system developed, weighted average for department heads and others. What others?
Some people
Under the
that.
category of management?
Yep, under, department heads all have goals and objectives, and I use the term perhaps division heads, and then there are some other positions that aren't necessarily managers or supervisors, but that still have gotten into the habit of providing goals and objectives. So if they do have tangible goals and objectives, and they're not necessarily management, they'll be used and weighted as part of their review.
Is that optional for those employees?
That's really up to the department heads. Some of them prefer it, and others don't know that the job really goes outside of the parameters of the description, where goals and objectives would be all that helpful.
Okay. I think it's just, I'm trying to understand from a consistency standpoint.
Yeah.
Department to department, you have your department head, and then if that department head so chooses to have goals and objectives developed by their employees, but not every other department does, it's almost like you're putting them into a different category
Right.
of evaluation, and I don't know how that would be viewed as by the employees per se.
it's not really that, Lorraine. It's just, for instance, the finance director is the department head of the whole finance department, but under him, he has the assessor, who is a manager. So even though she's not a department head per se, that's one person, the same with the
Right.
treasurer collector, who manages her department.
Okay.
So they're not really the department heads, but they're division heads
Right, I don't think we use
likes to
that
call
term.
them, but
Okay,
that's
so-
what's meant here. And for instance, in the highway department, they have a town engineer, doesn't really supervise other people, but is, a professional level job that, should be viewed under goals and objectives and,
So maybe to just expand that description to include department heads, department directors, and other professional level staff, so that it's clear that it's not line staff whose manager or director happens to develop goals and objectives with them.
Right, I can happily change it, I just would not want to exclude if they decided it was beneficial or helpful. And I think the consistency is important, so we can change it to those categories.
Yeah, I'm just saying anyone who's not in a leadership, like a management at any level role.
Right,
There may be staff members who have goals and objectives who do not have a director, and so they would fall under non-managerial personnel, is what I'm saying.
right, so we'll do department heads and professional staff. That seems good, sure.
Directors, if
Department
that's the
heads.
other level that you have.
Directors, managers, and professional staff,
Yeah.
is that more
Yep.
broad?
I think I was kind of hung up at the same thing about the goals and objectives and the performance overall. So it probably would be helpful to see the forms and how they're structured.
Absolutely, sure.
Because, again, my questions were, why would non-managerial staff have goals and objectives if they're not being reviewed on a merit basis? And would want to see just some examples of the key responsibilities that exist in those. Under meets requirements, performance meets acceptable standards, results usually meet requirements. Meets requirements is like that's the good performance. That's what we expect of everyone. We wouldn't use the word always meets requirements there, because this is the meets standards person.
Okay,
This is a solid performer.
so instead of usually, always?
No, give it always, right?
Yeah.
Give it always, is what you're saying, correct?
That's what I'm suggesting.
Under which thing are you under? I'm sorry.
Under meets requirements, category 3.
The evaluation definitions?
Yes. Yes. Meets requirements is the meets standards employee who does a really good job.
Results usually meet requirements. I don't have always on this.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Do you think it could be always as opposed to usually?
Yeah, that's what I would just said, replace usually with always.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Did I say it backwards?
No, I think I did.
Okay.
You just confused all of us.
Under performance pay amounts, it looks like what this is proposing is that a person who meets standards, who meets requirements, will, on top of a COLA, receive a 2.5% increase.
They'll receive a
And
step.
That's, the question I have is that, each year as we determine what we're looking at for a potential COLA and all other increases that go into it, we come up with a percent every year as we start the budget process for, especially for bargaining. And doing it this way exceeds what we would typically come up with during our budget process. What I wanted to talk about, if we have a COLA, you have someone who meets standards, they get their step and their COLA. If the COLA that year is 2%, you're talking about a 3.25% increase. That's a good increase. The way this is structured, it would be a 4.5%. Again, I think that busts the budget.
Well, I think that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was the research we did in the direction we were looking to do, is go back to a step system.
Isn't that a one-time? It's not for the next year, it's a one-time, possible 2.5 for that year. It
Right.
doesn't carry the next year.
No, you don't automatically get it every
It's
year.
just a one-time,
Becomes the part of your basis for the next
Become-
year.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
does it?
Yeah, so I think
You
it busts
take
the
that
budget.
step up and then,
No, I thought the bonus, it's
Oh,
getting
this
a little
isn't a
confusing.
it's not a bonus, no. This is being worked into their base rate.
Right. So they'll get,
Could-
that's what the step system is.
Right, but I thought this was gonna be like a little, I'm not a financial expert like the gentleman I'm looking at right now, and I'm trying to understand this as we go, but I thought this would be the normal step raise, but I thought a step pay increase. I thought this was gonna be, and maybe I'm just totally misunderstood, an increase for that, a one-time increase bonus. And then the next year, it's not part of anything, it's just that one-time step increase, all right. So you're correct. It could be
So-
up to a 4.5.
Yeah, so I think that gives me pause, because I think maybe we need to do an analysis, see what does that translate into. I don't know that I could support that type of process, because it takes away the ability to
Control the budget?
control the budget, yeah.
But that's what a step system is. That's what Kevin created, that's what you guys voted in 2 years ago. And then you decided to go to the merit.
That was a step system voted in with a merit component.
Mhm.
Now that merit component has gone away,
Sounds
so
like what-
we have moved all the salaries up. We're at that higher level. And so now I think this is a matter of trying to rework to bring that in line with the progress of, like, all employees. And again, taking the unions into consideration. I think maybe this piece needs to be relooked at. Maybe if you could work with, I don't know if you can work with Randy to calculate what this looks like compared to the change that we did last year, and what it could look like going forward a little bit.
If you ran it out 5 years.
Yeah, because this could be significant.
Okay. Anything else, Laura?
Just a general question, so if we had a potential employee show up with 5 years of experience, do you place them on the step system, like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is that?
no, it depends on how many years of experience and their background. Somebody could start at 1, somebody could start in the middle, somebody could start at the top. It really depends on,
Like
they were
our town
going?
manager, our part-time town manager, he started not even close to the top of a town manager's step salary. He
Right.
started,
but it started, further up, there wasn't a 1.
Right, but I mean, if someone comes in with 5 years of experience and you have someone else working with 5 years of experience, you would bring them in where the comparable person is, so you have parity? Is that how you do it?
It depends. I mean, you have to take everything into account, whether it's, experience, education, all the different variations and what level. But in general, that would be the way it would be done.
I mean, I like the idea of the steps at the 1.25%, thinking of it in terms of bringing people in where it would make sense to look at putting them, and almost think that, perhaps each year as the budget is developed, you look at, this is the figure we're going to come into, so this is what the performance component of it is on top of the COLA each year, so that you have more flexibility, and it's not like you're traveling chunk, so much as you are a percentage along a range. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Ginny?
It says that there are two category forms on file with the HR. Are those forms completed?
Yes.
And we don't have copies of them?
Nope, I can gladly get them to you.
If you could.
Of course.
Also, at 1.4, performance payouts. Well, first of all, did you wrote this?
Yes.
And, okay, and what were your references in regard to, what did you look at to compile this and create this?
I looked at several different towns and different forms and compiled the pieces that made sense for the program we were looking to build.
Okay, what towns did you look at? And what were you looking at, when you approached the towns, what did you ask them?
Well, this very specific piece, we mirrored after Easton. This is, this actual section is what Easton does presently.
Did you go to any other towns?
I don't have the list with me, but yes, I spoke to, I think at a couple of meetings ago, I don't know if,
Yeah, we
off the top of my
mentioned
head,
some
all
of
of
the
them.
names, but, you know,
Right.
Barnstable was one that we looked at, and
right.
I think North Attleboro, but I don't remember the full list.
Yeah, I just don't have the list in front of me.
And when you asked them, were you asking what the pay would be, or were you asking what the step would be in their process, what they did use with the steps? Is that what you were comparing when you looked
I
at
was
the
actually,
towns?
yeah, I was actually comparing do they have a step system? And if they do have a step system, how their step system works. And some of them, the percentages between steps, and some of them were more complicated because they had union, some were non-union, and those varied quite a bit.
Okay, I was kind of confused on where it says employees will receive a step if there is no outstanding performance issues. Employees will receive another step upon satisfactory review and/or goals and objectives. Why wouldn't the first criteria, no outstanding performance issues, be rolled into a satisfactory review? Because the way I read it is you have an employee, they get a COLA. Then if they just do their job and don't cause any problems, they get a step. And then if they get a good review, they get another step. That's
Right.
2 steps in 1 year, possibly.
Well, our steps were our steps were 2.5. We broke them in half. Partly we were mirroring this piece of it from Easton, and to give us more options where we could give somebody, for lack of calling it a half a step, because they're listed as steps at 1.25. So that's why. So people, instead of getting 2.5 all up front, you get 1.25, and then the other 1.25 upon a satisfactory review and/or goals and objectives.
Okay, so 1.25 twice is 2.50. And then
Correct.
what's the COLA?
Depends on what the board.
Depends on what's set each year. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 2.
Yeah.
Kind of goes along with what the union contracts get.
Do the union contracts have any of the union contracts have 2 steps in 1 year?
This is not a 2-step. We
Yeah,
just
it's not
broke
2
down the
steps. We just broke
2.5 into 2 steps because of the Munis program and to allow us more flexibility, because it's going to be a performance base. If they haven't hit it out of the park, I think is one of the words that's been used in the past with the merit, then maybe they don't deserve 2.5, but they've worked hard and they would deserve 1.25. So that's why we've kind of broken it down into 2 steps from 1 step, but.
I don't know, it just seems you're getting a step
You're getting a half a
just
step.
for showing up, and then when you're looking at the compensation, the way I read it, say you're a grade 7, and if you're 40 hours a week, your annual salary would be $61,526.40. Okay, then you get a step for being nice and not causing any problems. That bumps you up to $62,287.68. And then if you're really good at your job, you get another step to bump you up to $63,058.32. So in 1 year, plus a COLA. Now, the COLA isn't included in this, right? Because you don't know what it is.
Correct.
Yeah. So without the COLA, you're going up from $61,000 to $63,000 in 1 year.
That's 2.5%. That's what the
$50.
current step, if we don't change anything, that's what the system is. If we don't change a thing, right now, that's what the system is.
That's what we're doing now?
That's what we do.
Right. We just broke it down to make it more flexible and give us more options.
Okay. Excuse me? Oh. I mean, am I getting this correctly? I mean, is this,
Yeah,
From
Jimmy,
a
right
financial-
now, just by, annually, you get, if you've been satisfactory work, you're gonna get a 2.5% increase plus the COLA. This gives management an option to, perhaps if your performance is, less than stellar, to withhold a portion of that 2.5. So that's why you see it's step 1A and step 1, step 2A and step 2.
okay.
One's more or less discretionary.
And the 2.5% that we're saying is in place right now, that was, again, that's in place because it was tied to a merit system. So we don't have a system right now, is what it is.
Right, well, the steps are what was reported out, and I'm not sure the best word to put it, but that's what all the staff is under or the majority of the staff is under the impression that that's the steps. So 2.5, then to go and add like an A for 1.25 between, is definitely not going to be received with happy and overjoyed people.
Well, they're two different programs, though.
Correct.
One's
Yeah.
merit, that's
Yep.
why they were created at 2.5. So now we're
Right.
talking a totally new program here.
Right, but
And
this
this
is what
does-
people pick up and look at. Like when they're hired and when they were
Right.
reclassified, they look at that 10-step plan. And that's why when merit just didn't work out for us, we went back and looked and we still had that 10-step plan. We just broadened it to allow us a little more flexibility.
Jimmy?
Is this something that this plan, is this something that has to be, because it's the non-union personnel, is this something that has to be run by the non-union personnel and the personnel wage bylaw committee, and do we still have a personnel wage bylaw committee?
The personal wage board?
Whatever.
Yeah.
So has this been run by, did you say this has not been run by the employees
We
yet?
started with the department heads.
Right.
We told them that we would be rolling it out with you, getting your feedback, and then we would roll it out with the rest of the staff.
And the personal wage board.
Can the selectmen get the feedback from the employees and from the department heads?
This is headed right back to where we were before. This is exactly what we went to the merit system, now we're going right back, I'm starting to spin up here, ladies and gentlemen.
No, well, I think it's important
That's what we did
because
last time.
No, I think it's important that the selectmen get the feedback from the employees because there is a perception in some people's minds that the selectmen are not being cooperative with town hall employees. And I would like to know, to let the town hall employees know that I would like to get their feedback.
I think that's a really good idea.
I can tell you what the feedback is. Go to a step basis and forget the performance part of it.
Right.
That's the feedback.
They want to go back to step. They thought that the merit was going to be steps. They didn't realize that such a small portion of employees would be eligible. I mean, it really was very unpleasant when I was trying to give out forms. I mean, I started several months after this went in place and created a system, and everybody was very upset that they thought it was going to be merit and you would get your step. So you'd have successful merit and you would get a 2.5% step increase. And when that didn't happen, people were really upset.
Some people were expecting upwards of 10% or whatever they were expecting, I was told. And they do reach out. I've had people call me on this before, and some applauded, some just totally were confused like I am right now. I'll be honest with you, I'm confused.
Right.
James, you got anything to add?
Employees wanted to go back to, the biggest request I had was to go back to the back to the steps and not the craziness with the merit and things like that. So we're trying to build something that would be functional.
Without the forms, you look at the purpose of this document, and numbers aside, I don't know if we're doing it justice or not, or damage, trying to figure out the numbers at this table. But without the forms, you look at the purpose of this, to improve the effectiveness and efficiency, opportunity for two-way communication, recognize potential, all fine and well. But without the forms, I don't know how this gets accomplished. So it needs to be a complete package so I can understand it. is there any, and I asked this before, what's the downside or the danger? We've got a new town manager coming in, and we finalize this before they get here. They're going to be using somebody else's tools to try to achieve all these goals. And probably the worst thing you could have said to us is this came from Easton, because we've had.
Oh, no, just that
No,
one.
this is
Two
Easton,
sentences.
So
long after Kevin was there, so
This is the new East.
This is what happened when the
No,
merit blew
I-
up in Easton.
Well,
So merit blew up in Easton. We went to see, well, what did you do to sort of recover your system, and what mechanisms did you utilize? So,
and they're very happy with it
Okay.
over there.
right. I
So-
talked to some of the
so-
staff.
So the opportunity for a new town manager, hopefully will be here for a long time, sitting down with a human resource director and coming up with a program that's unique to Foxborough based on this person's new experiences. Numbers aside, what's the damage of waiting another couple months for that?
It won't even be a
The problem is, and Randy could probably fill in as far as planning for budgetary, Article 5 specifically, you need to really know what kind of system we're going to have in place, correct?
Well, while you're coming up, and that's fine.
Employees'
I remember some of the
expectation.
problems that we had. We had a brand-new program, and then we had to put a budget on it with expectations a certain percentage was going to get a raise, some weren't, and all that stuff. So we had numbers anticipating a
64,000, I
new
think.
project.
Right.
Can we put numbers anticipating this step without going through the details of this before a town manager's here?
That's a great question. I haven't seen what you're looking at here, but I know I can give you.
This step process? You haven't seen that?
I
That's what we handed out at
know, but I
the
haven't seen what
department
the. Have I seen that?
I think so. You can look at it.
Anyway, I guess I can give perspective to this, but to the budgetary question. We budgeted 3.25% in total for COLA and what was to be merit for this year, fiscal 14. That was the parameter, and that dates back to a bigger discussion that was had that ultimately, when the board ultimately voted to support the merit program, and there was a lot of discussion that went into what that number would be. So part of it was the COLA, 2%, and then the 1.25 component was presumption that only half of the employees would receive merit. So 3.25% was the amount that, and it was acceptable to the board in the context of the wage plan had just been shifted from the middle of the market to, in essence, the top quartile. And so therefore, the board was looking for assurance that this new pay plan was not going to become more expensive than the existing plan. And so Kevin and I were both asked to quantify what was the break even on it going from the old plan to the new plan. And it was in essence a third of, if a third of the employees received merit, and merit was deemed to be a step at the time, 2.5%. So if a third received merit, then that was the break even based on, compared to the old plan, based on my analysis. So what was Kevin then discussed with the board is that it will probably be between a third and half of the employees covered would receive merit. So half of a step, 1.25. So that's how we got to 3.25. And that was acceptable because the intent was to keep the growth of wages to within the growth of the town's revenues. So, 3.25 is a manageable number. So for the time being, we have a placeholder of just that for FY 15, the same parameter. I'm hearing for the first time, Lorraine, what you're referencing. I'm not, again, I'd have to read the document. I don't know, I don't recall that it's going to be, if it's going to be 4.5%, then that's definitely outside of the parameter that was discussed the last time the board was considering this. So I don't have an answer for you on that, what it should be, but to answer the question, we're budgeting 3.25 currently, and at the board's direction, we'll either stay there or change.
Some clarification. Thank you.
Sure.
So if I
Okay,
stay-
before we go
But I
any
can-
further, does anybody want to, is the sense of the board to put this off?
Yes.
Because it's for the sake of time. I don't want to keep thrashing this around if we're not going to move forward. Lorraine, is the sense?
Just, could I say one quick thing before, you mean hold this off till a new town manager comes?
For a month, yeah.
Okay, because one of the things, depending on when you expect the person, it's already the later half of January, and the employees they keep waiting for this plan to happen, and they know that we came here. Bob's communicated with all of them that we came, and it was, we're gonna go back and look at a new system. So they keep waiting for that to happen. That's all. I just wanted to let you know that
Well,
employees are getting
I've
a little
heard
frustrated.
2 if not 3 members ask for that form that they ain't going to see tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what, we're putting this over to another night. Would you all agree with that?
Yeah, I think,
That's-
Jim's
you all
point was,
wanna
let's
see
see the
that.
complete package so we can
Right.
make an assessment on it.
So can we regroup?
And one of
I-
one of the questions I think I would like to ask the town manager candidates is a discussion on this pay plan.
It'd be a long night.
Well, hey, you know what?
We only got 45 minutes.
You know
Each.
what? I mean, I think it's an important thing. We have just gone through a very bad choice of a town manager. I don't want to
Oh.
make that same mistake again.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we need to move on. All right, no,
So,
let's
Mark,
just,
you thinking of putting this off
yeah, we'll
for
put
2
it
weeks?
off for 2 weeks right now,
Okay.
all right? Because it's going nowhere,
So,
and we need to move
but-
forward.
But in the 2 weeks, can Cindy and Randy work like?
Absolutely.
budget?
I think that was already,
Yeah, I'll work with Bob and Randy.
let's put this forward.
And also give us the forms.
Yeah, I can email them to you. I couldn't get into my computer today, it's locked out, but I'll happily get them to you tomorrow, if I'm able to
Rather than
get
an
in.
email, can you just put them in a packet and we
Sure.
can pick them up at town
Yeah.
hall?
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll give you a template a blank template for the goals and objectives, so you can see what directors and professionals, whatever the list was. Then I'll give you the other forms that were created with the 1 to 4 scale.
Can you give us some,
Everything.
like, specific examples too, like, some of the director level, department, like, one department head, one director level, and one staff level, just so we could see the difference between the forms?
Yeah, I don't know that, I don't want to be I just want to be cautious of what we're putting out there. It's sort of in an open forum, because it's part of a personnel file.
Yeah, they
Well, not
wouldn't have names on
graded,
them.
just,
Yeah, some of them are going to be
by
obvious,
job-
though.
just
It's
by
going to
job
narrow it
description.
down to one individual, that's all. So
But-
let me give it
but-
some thought and figure out best way to handle that.
okay.
Last time we went through, we had a consultant come in. Am I correct that everybody has a job description?
Yes.
So I think that's what you're looking for, without
Yeah.
names and just
Right, it's
seeing
just the
what the levels
evaluation
are.
form for that. Sometimes like job descriptions and evaluation forms are the same tool almost.
No, the
No.
Different.
evaluation form is going to be the same for all management level
Yeah,
staff.
it's the same
not-
form,
It's not per job description.
right. Your goals and objectives, like I write my goals and objectives and the town manager reviews, either approves them, edits them, whatever needs to happen. Then the form that's used is the same blank form for everybody with the 1 to 4. And again, I'm just
I
sort
see.
of making up things, but how well do you communicate with
I'd
your
like to see it.
employees, things like that. So I'll give you all of the blank forms and a copy of a couple of the job descriptions for the different levels within the organization.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
All right, let's regroup in 2 weeks. Thank you.
sounds good, thank you.
Okay, next up, joint meeting with the planning board. Planning board associate member joint appointment. Gentlemen, please. Good morning, Phil. Nice to see you all.
See you all. Thanks for having us. So, based on the way we do this with an alternate member, it's a requirement that we come and have a joint meeting with the selectmen. Our meeting's been in session since 7. It's our normal night, and so we just voted to reconvene here with you guys until we resolve this. We're here to present Gary Whitehouse as the alternate. Gary has been attending our meetings for at least the last 3 years on a regular basis, paying attention to what we're doing. He's shown a vast amount of interest. There was only one other person who showed some interest and then withdrew, which was Ms. Walsh. And we feel that he's familiar with the workings of the board. The alternate member does not vote on every single application. Excuse me. They're really only, they do attend every meeting, but their main purpose is to be there in the event that a regular member, a full-time voting member, has to recuse or is going to have an absence of longer than one meeting and can't invoke the Mullins rule and continue on. So as long as they attend every hearing, they have the ability to vote on that particular application, no matter what it might be, to the planning board. They're only appointed. It's not an elected position. They're appointed annually, jointly with our board and your board. We feel that Gary has shown the interest, and he's certainly been appointed by this board for a variety of other committees in the town, so you should be familiar with him and the work that he's done. And we think that he's very valuable, and we would like to present him to you as the candidate that we prefer.
Okay. Anybody got anything to say?
Yeah, I'll go. Gary, I think if we ever write the history of Foxborough, you're going to be the ultimate consummate volunteer. How many other boards are you on? Half a dozen?
3 or 4?
3 or 4, okay. And I you know, with this, and this is a very I don't know, important board.
Prestigious.
Yeah. I mean, do you have time to do this, or would you? I know the other ones don't meet as often as this.
Right, there's a couple that haven't met in.
But would you
more than a year.
continue with those, or would you just focus on planning?
No, I
board?
would definitely continue with those. I don't see any conflict at all, and this would definitely be priority because this meets on a more regular basis.
Okay.
A couple of the other committees are just as needed basis that they meet.
Yeah, you're still on personnel wage. I know that.
Personnel wage, that's in flux right now.
Veterans advisory.
Veterans, we meet once a month.
Yep.
That's an advisory. The audit committee, haven't met.
That meets once a year if they even do that. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right.
You're on the permanent municipal
Oh yeah, that one too.
building committee also. How does that doesn't conflict with planning
No,
board at all?
no, they meet on different nights.
Okay.
No, as far as decisions would go, I think.
Decisions.
Occasionally, they will come before us, and depending on in which case, I guess Gary would have to recuse as a member of that board.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, thanks.
Ginny?
No, that was my questions about the time commitment with the other positions you hold, whether, you would have to resign from those committees or not, but.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
James?
I'm actually going to recuse myself out of respect for the planning board and the selectmen. Some of the hardest things I've had to do on this board is not to say something, and I'm going to not say something, so out of respect, I'm going to recuse myself, and I will not vote for Gary.
I'm going to recuse myself also, so. Lorraine, take it over.
Actually,
so-
I'm not going to be at the table when this vote happens.
So, at this point, we would,
Our board has already, in a previous meeting, voted unanimously to present the
Okay.
candidate to you
Okay,
guys, so
so-
it's really
sure.
important.
I just want to talk about the mechanics of how a joint meeting works. Your board has voted unanimously to appoint. And so in this particular discussion, if the Board of Selectmen vote, we vote in tandem with the planning board, correct? Okay.
It's a majority of all the sitting
Yeah,
members.
okay.
Okay.
Just so everyone watching knows, this is an unusual event.
Yeah.
okay. So then we need a motion to appoint Gary as an associate member of the planning board?
Okay, any other questions, Ginny?
No.
No, okay. I'll make a motion that we're all gonna vote together, right? That the Board of Selectmen, in conjunction with the planning board, appoint Gary Whitehouse as an associate member for a term of 1 year. Is that right?
Actually,
Is it, it's
when you
renewable
order,
annually?
or does it come back in June?
Well, it'll come back, it is for the, well, yeah, it's
It-
unusual,
it's-
so he's actually
But it's for the
filling
duration of
stuff.
whatever
Yeah, it's two-
term
it's
we're
Duration
in.
of this fiscal
Through
year,
May,
and
yeah.
and then
Right.
it will be back in
Then
June.
he'll have to come back.
Okay. Okay, now, during, I know you guys had deliberations, but were there any, discussions with Gary? Were there any, super positives? Were there any negatives? Or was there any concern that Gary's the right guy for this position?
I don't believe on our board there was any concern.
Okay.
He fulfills the ability, in terms of capability, and he doesn't have any outstanding overriding conflict that would prevent him from voting, and on any individual application that might be the case, just like any other member of our board, he would simply have to recuse and step away. Or if it's a minor matter, disclose, and then potentially.
Okay, one last question, and we're gonna, is there any training that goes on? Do you go to any seminars, forums to learn about the laws that the planning boards have to be aware of?
Well, mostly it's by
Trial by fire.
by practice from sitting at the table and familiarizing yourself with.
Okay,
the
so it's
zoning.
through
Yeah.
experience and osmosis, and you
Yes.
guys will train the next fellow.
And there's workshops that we can, we
Straight
can go
up.
to.
Yes.
That are held periodically around the state, and we can go to those.
Okay.
And frankly, we're fortunate that we have Sharon, because she's very, very knowledgeable, not just about our own bylaw, but with a lot of state regulations and chapter and verse, and so we rely on her as well.
Take it away.
Did I get a second?
Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
support.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very
Congratulations.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon is terrific.
No question.
Thank you. Have a good night. Kevin, can you send Jim and,
I'm sorry?
can you send Jim and Mark back in, please?
What's next? Just action items?
Town manager
Next is
recruitment.
the town manager recruitment.
Lorraine's gonna give it to me.
There's the handout.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Town manager recruitment.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. You got extra copies, right? And Frank, I got something else for you here that you missed earlier. Give me 1 second. Here, Frank. That's for you. That was a step, that's yours, yeah. Okay, Bill, please.
John Spinney.
Can I just start for 1 second, Bill?
Oh, sure.
I just want to start by thanking John Spinney as chairman and Bill Yukna as clerk, along with Kevin Weinfeld, Kevin Penders, John Mitchellmore, Frank Spillane, and Dave Brown for all of the time and effort that they put into this process. There were multiple meetings and a lot of robust discussion, and I think working with the help of Mary Accardi from the Collins Institute, I was very happy to hear that you were able to bring forward some very qualified candidates for us to learn about tonight. So thank you again for your efforts.
No problem. John Spinney wanted to be here, and he actually was scheduled to be here at your original meeting on Tuesday, but he's out of town right now, so he asked me to fill in for him. Basically the charge was to review applicants, using the Collins Group as a starting point. They received 36 applications. They did their initial review, which was based on the criteria that you worked out with them for what the position should be. After that review, they dropped it to 21 to bring to the screening committee. They felt that the other 15 didn't meet that criteria base. The 21 was then reviewed by the full committee, and we came down to a group of 9 that we were comfortable with bringing in based on what we read within their resumes and past experiences, and again, based on the criteria that you had originally set up, we narrowed it down to that level. We interviewed the 9, and we're going to present 3 of them to you tonight. They are in alphabetical order. They're not in any kind of numeric order as to how we rank them. Our opinion is that it's solely up to the Board of Selectmen to now do your interviews, and based on your interviews, determine where you feel these 3 candidates fall. We are comfortable as a group that their experience level can meet the position that's at hand here. And I think you'll see once you meet them and go through their resumes that you have some very qualified individuals to fill this role.
Okay.
Thank you.
About as simple as it is.
So, Lorraine, is you put on the agenda for Tuesday.
Yeah. We're going to have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday to interview the candidates. We'll need to notify them as soon as possible. Now that we have their names, we can notify them, and hopefully they'll be available for next Tuesday evening.
And who will do that? Will it be acting town manager or Bill?
It might be Mary, wouldn't it, under her
Yeah,
under the contract? The Collins Group?
Should be.
Yeah.
Is it them?
I'll
I'm
give
just
them a call.
asking the question. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they've been in contact with
Yeah.
the 3 already, so.
Okay.
What I have in here for everybody is a copy of what the screening committee used in terms of the rules for the candidates during the interviews, and there are some good advice here about what we need to keep in mind during the interview process. And then just some of their all of their questions are here, and I think it would be good if we reviewed those. I've also got here some instructions, some general suggestions and guidelines from Richard Kobayashi,
So you already get that.
and asked all the board members to review these. And these just give some general thoughts on suggestions for questions, items to keep in mind during the interview process, and types of follow-up that we might consider after the interview process. And also, I did print out for everybody from the Mass Municipal Association their section on the recruitment process, specifically the selection process. Talks about reviewing applications, but actually going towards the back, talks about interviewing the candidates, the finalists, and post-interview activities. So I thought that would be helpful, again, for all of us to consider as we're setting up to do these interviews. And then next Tuesday, I'd suggest that we meet for about 15 minutes before we start the interviews, just to make sure we're organized. I'd ask if everyone could submit their questions, make sure this is okay, submit their questions to me. I'll just line them up and bring them next week. We can sit down before we start the process and identify the questions that we're going to use, who will ask them, and then be ready to start.
Okay.
Does
You're
that sound-
starting at 6, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first interview could start at 6:15. Okay, set it up like that.
And then every hour.
Mhm.
Okay.
Again, I'm thrilled at how the process worked and really appreciate all of your efforts.
I mean, obviously, I think we should announce who the
Oh, yeah.
candidates
Well-
are so that the people that don't know who it is.
It's a detail.
And again, these are in alphabetical order. The first one is Jack Hathaway, second one is William Keegan Jr., and the third one is Frederick Tarkington. All of these have already been vetted by the Collins Group as far as background checks, credit checks, references, not only the ones that they gave, but also all the personal people that would have had contact, or professional people who have had contact with them in the past for references. So that stage has already been done before they even come to you. So again, all 3 have passed that part of it as well.
Are they all employed at this point in time?
Actually, Jack Hathaway is the town manager in Norfolk. William Keegan is the town manager in Dedham. And Fred Tarkington is not employed at this point, but was Wayland's town manager.
Okay. Any other questions, John?
No, I'm looking forward to next Tuesday night.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Quick question, Bill. We've got the questions that your committee asked, 13 of them. It's nice to know that they were asked, and I'm sure they were all satisfactory to get to this point. But is there any summary or notes of what their answers were, so we don't have to ask the same questions?
No, because the way the screening committee process is supposed to work, it's supposed to be independent, and therefore there's not, any kind of a note process that's done on it,
fair enough.
unfortunately.
Thank you.
But what was nice about because we know the questions that you asked, so for these finalists to become the finalists, they must have the answers must have been satisfactory to the committee. That's the way I would use this. Also, were the 3 finalists, were they unanimous in regard to the committee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Lorraine, for handling that. It's been a lot of work, and I appreciate, the whole board appreciates it.
You keep it, I don't need it.
Okay, I guess we're going to, John.
Okay, we have 8 action items.
Thank you.
First action item is Saga Hibachi Steakhouse has asked if they can begin serving liquor at 11 a.m. on Sundays during Patriots home games.
That's a no-brainer.
So I'll make a motion that we approve Saga Hibachi Steakhouse's request to begin serving liquor at 11 o'clock a.m. on Sundays during Patriots home games.
That start at 1.
That's start at 1, thank you.
Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, John.
Okay, Bob, help me with this one. This is from the Norfolk County Mosquito Control Office. And do you need approval for you to go to this budget meeting? Is that what this is asking?
Well, the budget meeting is today. But this was supposed to be done Tuesday night, but they need, I did not go. I need to give them whether or not you support the budget, which is the main thing. And that's laid out in your packet. And I think this is just an annual process.
Just curious how they determine the percentage of budget that applies to us, is like by the density of mosquitoes? Or?
I think it's more, I think it's more by the area they spray.
Area?
The size of the,
Size. We have a lot of water in this town. So, I'll entertain a motion.
Oh, I had one other question, Bob, if you know. They have 11 year-round employees, and I'm struck by how they function in the winter.
That's a good question. I do not know that, but I'm sure it's just planning and doing everything they have to do in preparation for the season. So.
Randy, do you have any idea on that?
I do not, John.
They're not seasonal employees, obviously.
I'm not aware.
Okay.
Any more questions?
No.
Motion?
I move that we approve the budget as submitted by the Norfolk County Mosquito Control District for fiscal year 2015.
Second. More discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Third item is the minutes from December 30th, 2013. Now move that the Board of Selectmen approve the minutes of December 30th, 2013 as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have
Right.
just a question. On page 2, when we were talking about the baseline for social impacts, it was also noted that anyone seeking help from private institutions would not be included. Does that mean from the schools?
Where are you looking?
This is the third paragraph, I'm sorry, last
Okay.
sentence.
They said that they wouldn't, anybody who went to private institutions, they wouldn't keep track of, basically.
Wouldn't be able to keep, because they
Because they're
wouldn't,
private institutions.
yeah, they don't
It
release.
wouldn't be a
Oh,
burden
for
to the town
assistant.
for mitigation.
Yeah, they don't go to
Gotcha.
Foxborough Human Resources,
Okay.
Council on Aging office. They
And
go
Human
to
Services.
Human Services, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any more? in the minutes?
Just a minor one, 2 paragraphs down, I asked if housing value change. That's just a typo.
Okay.
Thanks.
John? Motion?
The motion was made and seconded.
I'm sorry.
But I can
All
make
those
it
in
again as
favor?
amended, if you want.
Oh, yeah, well, no, it's not necessary.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And this one's also a day late because of the storm.
Okay, this is a license, actually, it's a license transfer. I'm gonna word this one. Actually, it's just a reissuance of a common victuals license, but there is a new owner of Lowen's. So I'll make a motion that we grant a common victuals license to Joseph Seafy, doing business as Lowen's.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Gift donations, John.
Okay, the item number 5 is a donation of an emergency management trailer worth $4,030, and the purpose is to store and transport shelter supplies. The donor was MEMA, EMPG Fiscal 12 Grant. So I'll make a motion that we accept this emergency management trailer valued at $4,030 with gratitude to MEMA.
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion?
Question?
Yep.
So this is just kind of catch up for prior, it looks like this happened in September last year, is that correct?
He had applied and it was awarded, but you have to accept it.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay, item number 6, this is a gift, actually, going to the Recreation Board. It's 2 weeks of sports training worth $160. The Recreation Board is going to use it as a door prize for the Recreation Open House. The donor is Mackenzie Miller of Elite Sports and PT, don't know what that means. Physical therapy, thanks. So I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen accept this gift on behalf of the Recreation Board, and thank you, Mackenzie Miller.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Okay. This is a gift being made to the Veteran Services. It's a gift of an American Express gift card worth $50. Its purpose is to assist a veteran in need. The donor is the estate of veteran James J. Kerr by James J. Kerr, Jr. So I move that we accept this gift of a $50 American Express gift card on behalf of Veteran Services given by the estate of veteran James J. Kerr by James J. Kerr, Jr. Thank you very much.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, last one, John.
Last item, number 8, is to reappoint Roger P. Hatfield as the Town of Foxborough's Fire Chief for a term expiring on 12/31/2016. So I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint Roger P. Hatfield of 400 Foxborough Boulevard for the position of Fire Chief with a term expiring on December 31st, 2016.
Second. Discussion.
Discussion?
Just a question, the term expiring 2016, does that?
That's his, runs
is
with
that-
his contract.
His contract is the same date?
According to Sandra, that's the end of, the term of his contract.
Any more? All those in favor? Okay. I'll entertain a motion, Lorraine, to exit, to go into executive session.
Move that we enter into executive session to discuss strategy regarding litigation matters, Splitsville, and to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, highway, water, AFS, CME, and dispatchers.
That's informational.
We will adjourn from executive session, come into open session only to adjourn.
All those in favor?
No, and then a discussion.
Discussion?
Topic. I'm going to make a request for the board to put on the next agenda an item regarding the open meeting violations. As you know, Mark, I've spoken to you, I've spoken to Mr. Cutler, and I've spoken to the attorney Dick Ellerman over the last 4 to 6 weeks. I was told, and I believe there were violations, and for us to go into executive session tonight to talk about Splitsville, while there were violations, I think this board needs to address it. I think we need to figure out how it's going to be addressed before we do any more meetings with Splitsville, have any more discussions in open session or executive session, because when this appeal period comes through, we're going to be playing catch-up later, and whatever we decide now is in jeopardy of being overturned. So I've tried to work with the board. I've tried to work with council. I was told there was violations. I was told that the formal response is that there was not violations, and it's been going on for too long. So I will not go into executive session to discuss Splitsville, and I advise the board, if they do, whatever you discuss is going to be in jeopardy following the outcome of the open meeting violations. I think the response that we've given to the public puts us above the open meeting law, and I don't think that's right coming from this board. I was told that this was going to be addressed before this meeting, before I had to say this, and it wasn't addressed Tuesday and it wasn't addressed today. So as chairman, I'm asking you to put this on the meeting, the next meeting that we have, because I don't know any other way to address it.
Any more discussion?
Yeah, I beg to differ. There were no open meeting violations, and the response that we gave said that there were no open meeting violations.
Bob, can you respond to that? Because if you don't, then I'll take it on
Well,
the table,
before we go any
please.
further with that, this isn't on the agenda. He's making a request. So
It's
how
not
much?
on the agenda.
So, no, but how much discussion could we have about this is
We
my
can't
point.
have a lot of discussion about that tonight.
Right.
He's asking that there be discussion next week, or next meeting.
Okay, Lorraine?
I'm objecting to that request because in the past, like in 2012, there were 4 open meeting law complaints filed against this board, and never once was it discussed. They are handled as matters are handled, correctly, and I don't see any conflict with the fact that there are those complaints on file that are being addressed. I don't see why that should get in the way of us dealing with the issue of Splitsville.
Okay, can I ask our counsel if you could address that? Because we've had specific discussions on that.
I think this is where we're going to.
We're treading.
Well,
let
we've
me
been trying
ask
for 6
counsel.
weeks,
No,
so
no,
I'm
let
asking
me ask
just to
counsel.
listen to the council.
Dick, Jim
It's
has
not on
asked
the
me.
agenda.
Jim has asked me to put this on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay? How much of a discussion can we have about this without taking, or do I just guide?
You can talk about
guidance?
whether you want to put it on as a matter of policy to talk about the issue that Jim has raised. You can, that's fine.
To talk about it now or later?
You can talk about whether briefly, whether you want to put it on your agenda. I don't think you ought to get into the substance of whether or not there have been violations. If you want to put it on your agenda, you can talk about whether you put it on the agenda.
Maybe I'm mistaken, so let's just clarify. So there was violations that were brought to the board, and we answered...
Violation accusations
that were brought to the board. And Dick, our response was there was no violations up to date, correct?
That was, I don't think we should get into what, that's all
I'm just
public
asking
record
for
anyway.
clarification so I know where we're standing. Maybe that's not an issue, but our response was there was no violations, correct?
That wasn't the
That was-
response, but...
But Bob's response is a matter of record. It said, I believe Bob said that there was no violation, but even if there were, it had been cured. There was a substance of, wasn't my letter, it was Bob's
Okay.
letter.
And I'll put you on the spot, and I'm sorry to do this,
Yeah.
but you had said to me, if I ask you this question, you will respond from an attorney's perspective. And that's what you led me to believe. What I'm trying to avoid is keep going down this path that we've been doing. And if I haven't had these discussions with the attorney, I wouldn't be bringing this up right now.
To the board, the open meeting law is a very important issue for the board. I think there's nothing wrong as a matter of policy to discuss at your next meeting open meeting law violations and the impact that they have. I think that's fine. I do hope, however, that that gets us off the issue of whether or not we can have a discussion tonight regarding Splitsville in executive session. So I'd hate to see that issue, as important as it is, Jim, prevent the board from considering the Splitsville issues that we've all worked so hard on tonight. So, but that's a policy decision, whether you, I don't think there's any legal impediment to our consideration in executive session of Splitsville because of the prior allegations of open meeting law violations. I don't think that's the case. But whether you decide to proceed with discussing them is a policy decision. That's for the board to make.
So, and I'm sorry, but my question is, in this, I'm not trying to beat anybody, it's a very complicated law, but to continue with meetings when I believe there were violations, I would rather get this rectified than to keep going to the meetings and putting it off. So my question is, did you make a determination on the violations?
Yes.
Okay. And was there a violation from your opinion?
In my opinion,
Dick, this is not on for tonight. I don't, you know.
Well, you know what?
Well, I'd like to know what would you be talking about if this became an agenda item? There's a process that already has begun. And why would the Board of Selectmen be discussing this if the process has already begun and the information has been submitted to the Attorney General?
I think the information that the town gave on behalf of the board is incorrect.
Well, that may be your opinion, Mr. DeVellis.
And that's why I'm asking Dick Gellerman from our discussions, can you give me your opinion on that? And we've had many discussions over the last 4 to 6 weeks, and I've been trying to patiently to get this addressed, but now we're going into executive session to continue on a mistake. That's all I'm saying. And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, Dick. But
Dick, I think, and you know, I might ask David to weigh in on this because he's counsel for the legal matter that's happening with Splitsville, and you know, if he would share his thoughts on whether or not we should be addressing publicly the open meeting law items while this is pending.
Yeah, it's a kind of an interesting proposition that you have. I kind of I firmly believe that the public is entitled to notice and hearing of a matter such as what's brought to your attention by Mr. DeVellis. So the only matter you should be considering right now is whether or not you would like to put that matter, that issue, on a future agenda. Without getting into the substance of the matter tonight, with all due respect to what may have transpired between Mr. DeVellis and Mr. Gellerman, sure, there may be some understanding or belief of where it may come out, but your public has the right to have an opportunity to be here if you want to schedule it for discussion at that time. I don't think it's appropriate to be going down the road of discussing the substantive matters that are of some concern to Mr. DeVellis. And so respectfully, I think that your best option as a board is to put it on, if you choose to do so, Mr. Chairman, at a convenient time for everybody concerned. You know, and there, additionally, the matter of the Splitsville proposals, which are, you know, were heard and now in litigation, are the appropriate subject for executive session, as you had planned to do for tonight, and that's why both Mr. Gellerman and I are here. Should your board vote to go into executive session to hear those matters, we're perfectly prepared to brief you further on them.
Okay. I'll take it as an advisement. I'll talk to you gentlemen in the morning, but you know, this has been burning for a long time, and it's something that could have been solved a long time ago if we just if I had handled it a different way, I should say, I think. John, you have anything to add before we move on?
No, there's a motion to go into executive session. I think that's where we are.
Okay. Any more discussion? All's in favor? There's multiple reasons of going in, just so everybody knows, so.
So what is the other one, but all it says is Splitsville. It's to do what for Splitsville?
Strategy regarding litigation matters, Splitsville.
So, if you want to recuse yourself at that point in time, I guess you'd have to state that then.
No, I'm voting as part of the board. If I lose on a 4-1, I'll participate in the meeting, because it is a board, but strongly object going into executive session to compound what I believe has been a mistake.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Roll
do it.
call. James?
No.
Jenny?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Good night, everybody.